This is the second studio, hosted by two architects, myself, David Lee, and Marina Borderonnet. This week is the two of us in an after-hours recording. And this week's episode is a special one because it's sponsored by Tylenol and Mucinex and antibiotics. We're both sick. Actually, if those of you who've been listening with keen ears, you probably heard that we've been kind of sick the last number of recordings. Coincidentally, I think this is the first one where we are the most sick. Barely even got this one in, barely. But it's been 8 years. I didn't want to miss an episode, so I didn't say it's going to be a good recording. We're just going to stick it in there, whatever the quality is.
I was just thinking, let's just skip a week. That's fine.
No.
Or can we, repost an old episode that we liked and just be like,
see if anyone notices.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're going to talk about, I don't know what we're going to talk about as far as random stories and things like this, but we might also touch on the somewhat recent news of the unionization challenges and problems that have occurred within Snøhetta and Big. That was kind of in the press somewhat recently. So we'll touch on that, kind of, maybe.
Yeah,
what do you
maybe.
think?
No, we'll see.
We'll see. Sponsors.
Architects, design leaders, founders redefining the industry. If you want to shape not only buildings, but the businesses behind them, this is your moment. Future London Academy's Executive MBA takes you inside the boardrooms of Pentagram, Uber, Zaha Hadid Architects, and Google, where you will master finance, strategy, and operations from the people who already excel at them. Study alongside peers, transforming the industry worldwide, and do it all in just 9 intensive weeks over 1 year between London and California. Award-winning, transformative, crafted for design and architecture leaders with 15 plus years of experience. If you're ready to grow your impact, apply now by tapping the Future London Academy link in our show notes.
The second studio is brought to you by Chaos. They make award-winning design and visualization tools, and they're really pushing the boundaries with AI. As we all know, AI is shaking up the architecture and design world, and Chaos is taking a responsible approach. Their tools are built to help architects, designers, and visualization specialists work faster and explore more ideas without replacing creativity. Basically, Chaos wants AI to make your imagination stronger and not take over, so you get to design with more freedom, create stunning visuals, and stay in control of your work. If you want to see what that looks like, tap the Chaos link in our show notes.
Spreadsheets can't bring your designs to life, but Programma can. Say hello to a bespoke integrated software suite built by and for experienced architecture and design professionals. Use your Pinterest image library to build collaborative mood boards, then turn them into shared online presentations with a click using Programma's pinboards. Use the Programma Web Clipper to build a centralized specification library for your studio. Share always up-to-date specifications and product schedules with clients, trades, and colleagues by generating beautiful, branded, live links and client dashboards. Programma's clean, minimal interface allows your work to shine. Start for free and save 25% on annual plans at programma.design/second studio.
This is the second studio with the two of us. Here we go. Well, let's kick it off with the architecture talk, since that'll be the easiest thing to hit. I hope we're going to have a guest on to talk more about the actual, technicalities of unionizing. We have done that in the past. We had, I forget their names. We had on an architecture organization who's championing the effort for unions. I think that was interesting, and I think I'm trying to line up a guest to talk about it from the perspective of an office rather than from the union leaders. But for those of you who don't know, there's a New York Times article. Is that the one that's on? I pulled up, and then a number of articles on other platforms.
Archpaper.
Okay, the Architects newspaper. That I believe there were a handful of employees at Snøhetta who were let go recently. And the claim is that they were let go because they had led the effort to create a union within Snøhetta back in 2023. And around the same time this year, there were a number of protests, I guess that's what you call it, by employees within Big, BRK Ingalls Group, who were unhappy with, working conditions. So, again, I don't really want to talk about the specifics of the technicalities of unionizing or even the specifics of being inside Snøhetta or Big, but I think this is just a generally good opportunity to talk about office work culture and the problems that the profession of architecture has had, I would say historically. So on that note, I'm trying to think, did you ever work at any offices where there was a union or I know there wasn't, because there wasn't an architecture union when we were working at offices. It didn't exist, period, with the United States. But was there ever any talk of that amongst the employees or a concern?
No, I mean, the only ones I knew that had unions were some of the construction workers.
Sure, yeah, that makes sense.
But that's all in our industry. No, I've never heard of anything like that when we were working for offices.
I mean, the idea of a union is that it is a way to help the employees get organized and present to the office a list of, requests, let's say, of working standards, and present, yourselves as a union, as a group, right? And a unified front, which is difficult to do. Because when you're a bunch of employees and you're just on your own asking for raises or bonuses or vacation time, it's on a case by case basis. But the idea of a union is that there should be a office wide set of standards. At least that's my kind of understanding. And the other thought too is that makes sense on paper, right? Because the office has, on the leadership side, they have a series of partners potentially. They have a legal team. They have HR. They have a suite of people, right, who are on their side of the table. And so on the other side of the table with employees, you also need to have some kind of organization, behind that, and also counsel and things like this. Mm-hmm. And so it makes sense, but I don't know. I don't think I ever came across that inside in the offices I worked at either. But were there any places you worked at so bad that you felt like a union would have helped?
You mean in retrospect? Because I didn't know at the time that was even possible for architecture offices, so that thought would have never come to my mind.
Yes, in retrospect. Or just office workplace and workplace and culture in general.
Yeah, I mean, probably. But I feel like there's kind of in a way, it seems like if you need a union, maybe that means there's something wrong in that office. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If the work culture is good, why would you need one? So it's kind of it's a solution and it makes sense, but also maybe that just means that the core values of that office are wrong to start with. So the issue is not the union, the issue is the office itself.
I think that's true, but I think in some ways, that's actually the argument that the employer would make against people unionizing. Right? They would say to the employees, you don't need a union, just work with us, we're good people, and we can solve whatever it is we need to solve. You don't need to unionize. It's generally understood that employers do not like unions. Right, because the employers then lose something because they have to give more.
But you would only think you need a union in an office that's not functioning well. I worked in offices that were great, and I don't think we would have needed a union there because things were working well.
Working well, break it down. Was it good? What makes you say it worked well?
I don't know. It was good people, good office culture, good pay, good bonuses, good raises, good responsibilities, good everything. So I'm not sure that having a union would have helped getting more than that, or if you could even get more than that,
I mean, the only union I was ever a part of was when I worked at Disneyland when I was in high school. It was a high school summer job. And then it was the first job I ever had. So you get your paycheck, and you see on the paycheck your gross amount that you've earned that month. And at the bottom is the net, and it's half. And you're like, what? What happened to all the money? And then there's it goes toward retirement, it goes toward this and that, and one of them is a union. I'm like, union? No, I'm a summer kid. I don't give a fuck about the union. But I think I recall having a meeting with my super, and they were like, you don't have to be part of the union. It's up to you. My memory's pretty hazy. This was a while ago, right? But I feel like that conversation happened, and I also felt in the room, though, it was kind of but you better fucking be part of their union. Because that's the whole point. If you don't have everyone part of it, then it quickly falls apart. And I guess in their view, even for summer interns. But to respond to what you're saying, I feel like the argument would be, well, you don't know what you could have gotten more. You don't know how it would have all been improved without you don't know what you don't know. Like, maybe it could have been better. Maybe. I've been at offices that functioned pretty well and offices that did not function well in terms of, let's say, work-life balance and pay. Mm-hmm. Culture is kind of a weird thing because on the one hand, an office that prioritizes,
wow.
This is going to be a difficult record, prioritizes work-life balance and good pay and benefits and, time off, tiny bit of time off, and, all these things. It sort of creates a good office culture in a certain way, but the opposite is also true, I've found, where in offices where all of those things I listed are not very good, everyone's pulling crazy hours, but the culture can be very, very strong because everyone's very united because you're all kind of, active combatants together. And you really bond strongly with people when you're all working late and doing crazy hours and sacrificing a lot. It just naturally creates a strong bond and therefore a certain kind of strength in the culture. So I think the culture can be strong in both ways. But what I was going to say is that I've worked in places that were kind of like both. I don't know. I guess the litmus of whether or not there should have been a union or there could be a union is whether or not things could have been improved, markedly improved. That in my experiences, almost all the offices I was at, like the union would have dramatically changed a lot of those metrics and those points that I brought up, I think.
But you also need everyone in the office to be part of the union. Otherwise, what happens to the ones who are not part of it? So
this is going back to that conversation we had with those two architects years ago. I'll have to look it up and put in the show notes for this recording. I don't think it's everybody in the office. It's a certain percentage. It's like 60-40 or 70-30 or 51-40, something like that. And, I recall part of that conversation was like, when there's the initial conversations about forming a union, it's they had, more than enough people to have it be realized. And then slowly people get kind of like brought into, conference room. Hey, Chad, can me and the other partners speak with you for a little bit? Then Chad comes out, and guess what, guys? I'm not going to be part of the union anymore. And then it then suddenly it shifts, and now they lose all the votes or counts or whatever they need. Mm-hmm. I think maybe the other thing to talk about, though, is just that in general, the profession has always had this quality of offices being a really difficult place to work in that it requires a lot of time, sacrifice, working well past 6 p.m., well over 40 hours a week. The base pay is low. Bonuses are low. You don't get paid overtime. Vacation days are like, when we were working, at least from what I recall, it was like you have 10 days of like combination of sick days and vacation days, which is based, 2 weeks for the year. Do with that what you want kind of situation. And then you gain like something weird, like one extra half a day for every year you've been working at the office, and this is the kind of accepted baseline. If you're even lucky to get a full-time gig, back when we first started working.
Sounds depressing. Sounds depressing. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough. It's funny because I didn't know we were going to talk about, Snøhetta and big things today, but I did see that Snøhetta had a post a couple of days ago recruiting, advertising for, like hiring position in their office and like, oh, we care about people and this and that. I'm like, yeah, it must be a tough set now that, like that article came out and like everybody kind of like saw what you've done with your employees and now you're trying to like find more employees. Like, I don't know. Like,
what's weird too is that when we were in New York, Snøhetta had a good reputation, no?
That's kind of like what was disappointing about our article. I was like, what? Out of all the firms that are, messed up and not doing things right, especially in New York, right, and kind of like treating employees like numbers, it's like Snøhetta would have been the last one I would have guessed because they're so I don't know, hyper aware and sensitive to everything they do in their work. It seems like that you would think that they would put as much care into their employees as they do in their projects. And it was just kind of like, all right, okay, well, another firm that, I had put high values in that's just going downhill.
Assuming the article is correct, and the challenge with a lot of these things too is that we just don't know, and nobody knows. Like if you read that article, it's full of just and then I think they had a spokesperson from Snøhetta provide some kind of quote, and then also a quote from the former union leaders, from the other side of it, and it's all just like political.
Who knows also what the writers are, deciding to put in articles.
True, but like politically correct, just like nothing of substance. We all value this. Like that's just nothing. Yeah. It's saying nothing. So we don't know, right? It could be that those people were let go for valid reasons, and it was just a coincidence that they happened to be, leading the unionizing effort, a few years ago. But Snøhetta always had a good reputation, from what I recall. There's a few other offices, and I don't remember their names now, who had good reputations in New York, but a lot of them don't. I mean, that's the thing, too, is like, you mentioned Snøhetta's approach to their work, the philosophy of their work, and the quality of their work as being markers of how they would run an office. And, I mean, do you think that provides an accurate reading to what an office is going to be like to work there? So like if I'm a young person, I'm looking at offices to apply to. Do you think that for that young person, they can somewhat determine what the office is going to be like to work within by the quality of the work that the office does?
The quality of the work is a bit broad, but I would say like what they put values into the project that they choose to do, right? Mm-hmm. If an office does like really like, high conscious, sustainable types of projects where they like care so much about nature and like how things are made and all of that, like I would tend to think that those people care about people as well, right? Mm-hmm. Offices who work on like super flashy, consumerism focused types of project and fast paced and whatever, I would tend to think they only care about money and maybe they don't care about people. So, as much as it sounds like gross generalization, I would think that yes, the type of work that they do and the values that they look for in the types of projects that they do would inform like who they are as people.
That's interesting. I've seen it both ways. I can agree with what you're saying to a degree, but I've also seen places where they're just terrible to work at. But the work is whatever type, and it's of a decent quality. Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest argument that employers have that they make, for things like unpaid interns, hiring graduates as interns and paying them a stipend, not providing, any vacation time, requesting indirectly, although blatantly, that they work until 9 p.m. every night, this kind of stuff. They're always citing basically that there's not enough money to have it go any other way. They're like, well, we need the project to be of high quality. If you're dedicated, as we are, to create a high quality building, then you're going to do whatever it takes. And that's the only thing that matters, deal with it kind of situation.
Yeah, and I think it's, the responsibility of the people choosing to work in those offices to either stay or not stay. Like, why would you care about the outcome of the project if you're not getting anything more than, in another office? Like, okay, the pride to say you worked on that project, who gives a shit? Like, it's not like you don't own it. Like, cool, yeah, you can, like, be snobby with your friends and be like, I work on that thing, and maybe put that in your portfolio and it might lead you somewhere, or not. Or you might just destroy yourself working for a place that doesn't care about you and you're not getting much out of that.
But I do think you get something out of it more than just the ability to be snobby amongst your friends. I mean, the reason why so many architects are passionate about the work is because they're passionate about the work. I mean, like, architecture school is a tough thing, but people are dedicated because they sincerely want to.
But the danger with that is that people just lose focus. and they're too passionate, and they forget about their, lifestyle balance. They forget about making more money. They it's good to be passionate and, maybe just for a little bit, or passionate but still, not forget the other issues at stake. I think it gets dangerous when people are just passionate and they only live for that. Like, you can't live for that. That won't get you far anymore. You know what I mean?
Wait, what do you mean by anymore?
Well, I mean, maybe 50 years ago, you could be passionate and make no money and be able to survive. You can't be passionate and make no money today. You just end up in the streets.
I think that's true. And actually, 50 years ago probably needs to be extended to more like 70 years ago.
And I think also, that's where, offices who hire for, no pay, they can't just ask people for their passion anymore. They have to offer more than that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, the world doesn't function that way anymore.
No, it doesn't. And I think there's scales too. So, it's really difficult to kind of locate this part of the conversation on the spectrum of pay without talking about numbers, which I don't want to do because things are always shifting. But for reference, when we graduated and we started working and all of our friends started working, the pay that people got was abysmal. It wasn't even close to being enough to live off of. It was stipends. You'd be paid, I think it was like $500 a month for working 60 hours a week, plus a subway card. And then it was $1,000 a month. And then it was $3,000 a month for, again, 60, 80, whatever, how many hours a week. And it's okay, well, $3,000 times 12, that's $36,000 less taxes to live in New York City. And yes, this was a while ago. I'm not talking about the 1950s. So it was, we're millennials. So think about that. Living on $36,000 in New York City, pre-tax, that's mental, right? But that's what it was like. And so, and then on top of that, that was the 36 grand. If you, that as a full-time employee, that means you're lucky that you got a full-time gig. A lot of people didn't do that. Didn't get that. They had the internship thing, a stipend, right? Or one of the places I worked at, I remember, I got a full-time, my second or first or third, I don't know, whatever place, was a full-time job that I was hired for. I was super excited. I think the pay was 42. And I was super thrilled. I was this is crazy. I'm going to go out and buy cars. I'm going to go out, do all this stuff. And then, of course, taxes and everything else. You're oh, this is still can't live off of this, really. So my point is that I only say that to provide some kind of reference. I think, those kinds of metrics should not, that kind of pay should not be allowed, full stop. It's just not okay. I think, when you go beyond that, though, when the pay gets higher, at some point it's more than enough to live off of as a young, early 20-year-old. You're not making enough money to go buy a car and do a bunch of other stuff, but it's enough to live off of. And it might not be great, but I think that should at least be that. And I think it's the job of the employees somewhat more and the employers to manage things respectfully and do as much as they can. But at some point as employer, if you don't have any cash to pay someone a bare minimum to live off of, then you kind of have to question how you're structuring things, I think. I've been and I'm not talking about small shops who have a summer intern who's a student in school. That's a legitimate, they're an intern. That's a real intern who's in school trying to learn, whatever it is. I'm talking about the offices who are big names, notable names, and they're hiring swarms of people, and they're paying them at that time, my reference in New York, again, 30-ish grand a year. That's not okay. If you're a big name architect that's been published everywhere, and you're doing all these giant projects, and you have your army of people who are being paid nothing, something's not right. You're not a struggling shop who's trying to get going. You're not a, whatever else. You have 50, 60, 100 people. What are you doing? At some point in your growth, you must have thought to yourself, well, I think I'm large enough now with enough people, enough big projects. I should probably figure out how to pay people legitimately instead of relying on this internship model.
But if you think about it, right, they get highly resilient individuals who are willing to sacrifice their personal life because they have none,
Yeah.
To the passion of design,
Yeah.
right? With the big name that they end up on their resume with for no money because they have no idea how much they should be making.
Mm-hmm.
They have no idea that they shouldn't be working more hours than, whatever amount. And it's maybe even their first job out of school. So they're so new to everything that,
I think a lot of it comes down to the seduction that the students, the graduates, are seduced by.
It's the names you see in the
office.
books, the ones you study in school, and you're like, wow, it's working for famous people. It's like, wow, if I'm working for this, then I made it, or whatever that means. But it's stupid and it's disgusting from the office side of doing that because they're just using their name as bait.
Mm.
And at some point, like, when do you realize that, you're saving a bunch of money, not hiring, like, proper people with proper experience at proper salaries? But do you think that's the right thing to do?
I had a friend who worked as an architect at a very well-known office. Everyone would know the office. And then he became a developer. And he was like, because when he worked at that office, he got paid like nothing. It was more than the numbers I was mentioning, but it was still like, it was nothing for New York standards. And later on, like years later, he's like, from the developer's side, like, we pay these architects like good money. He's like, I don't know where the money goes, but like, it's not getting down to the people who are doing the work. He's like, and it's a strange thing. That's just an anecdote, of course.
Yeah.
I don't know where it goes. I mean, look, running your own business is tough. The money goes out pretty quickly to all the various office expenses.
And if you have like 10 partners or whatever, and they're each making like however many six figures, like, well, that's where the money goes. It just goes to them, just showing up, doing nothing.
Showing up and doing nothing. I think the other thing too here, not even to play devil's advocate, but it's part of the reality, is that architecture is a weird thing because you go to school for 5-ish years. Or a 4+2 program, whatever it is. You go to an Ivy League. You go to one of the top schools in the United States or a top school abroad, right? You get all this education. You study hard. You spend a lot of time, a lot of all-nighters, let's say. It was very intense. You come out of those 5 or 6 years a different person. You have acquired this very unique skill set and mindset. Yet, from a productivity standpoint with an office, you don't really provide much value.
No, you don't.
And so that is baked into this equation, let's say, of massive student debt, hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially, a lot of, quote, expertise, but that expertise is not practical knowledge that makes your time in the office, your working hours, productive and truly billable for the first handful of years. Not first like few months, not first like years before you're really, really productive. And so if one were to make an argument on behalf of the employers, it's like, well, what do I do with a person who has 2 years of experience? They're still worth nothing to me.
Why then hire people who have more experience? And
they need to make a living, and they need to work in an architecture office. Like, what do I do with that person? And, that's where the salary amount comes into play, because from the employer's perspective, it's like, okay, well, person who has 2 years of experience, you're asking for $100,000 of pay. Okay, great. I get that would be a nice paycheck for you. I get that these cities are expensive. A, you can live on less than that for sure as a 20-year-old. B, but you're not worth that. You're not even close to being worth that. And I'm using 100 as a high number just to avoid anything that's too specific. And I don't know. It's I'm trying to think of other professions that have this challenge, because I feel like other trades and other professions you study in school, when you come out of school, like, you have practical, let's say technical knowledge that makes you productive for, I don't know, fucking whatever industry it is. But it's not really the case in architecture because school's so theoretical.
But I don't know if it's just architecture that's that way, or if actually most professions are like that. Because unless you've actually been putting things into practice, like, how useful are you when you really come out of school?
Well, maybe a little more useful. I mean, architecture school is so conceptual, right? that, and the reality is like when you get to an office, so let's say you just graduated, you're working in an office, and that office does buildings. They're not some architecture research practice that's doing more academics. I mean, they're doing buildings. They're doing libraries. They're doing schools. They're doing houses. They're doing multifamily. They're doing like buildings, right? The people who are doing like concept design are not going to be some how old would you be? 22-year-old person, unless they want to just like do the shotgun method and have everyone do a charrette and come up with some ideas. For the most part, it's going to be the senior partners leading the initial design effort. So really what happens is I think the first number of years as a fresh graduate, you're more of like a trainee than you are an employee that's providing value to an office. And I've seen that time and time again. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it is it's broadly speaking baked into this whole thing.
But I kind of feel like doctors are probably like that too, right? I mean, they don't really...
Yeah.
I mean, maybe like general practitioners, not so much, but like surgeon and whatever, like you don't really get to know your stuff until you like start doing it.
Well, I have limited knowledge of this area because, for family friends, but, they do, what is it called? Residency.
Mm-hmm.
They do years and years and years of basically school or school adjacent types of things before they actually go to practice like a full-fledged doctor on like a long time. And, they make very little money during that time, amass a large amount of debt and stuff. So some of it's kind of parallel to architects, even worse because they're in school or residency or whatever for much longer. But the difference is that once you get out of that, you have a path to be making easily a mid six figures a year if you want to. Not necessarily making millions a year right off the bat or right after that time, but you're making really high, like good solid six figures. And so my point is that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Like I remember years ago, I was talking with a person whose son was going through, I think, residency or some aspect of what I just described. And they were like, I had a long conversation with my kid for the first time in years because we did a road trip together. And I really have a lot of respect for what he's taking on because now I understand, because the dad did not come from that background. The dad was like, now I understand, like this is a huge sacrifice, long hours, brutal hours, no pay, debt accumulating. It's tough. And I'm like, yeah, kudos to your kid, and I knew him sort of like, he's nice, like kudos to him. I'm like, we have the same thing in our profession, but the difference for us is there's no light at the end of the tunnel. We have like a flashlight at the end of the tunnel. You guys have sunlight. We have a flashlight. We have an iPhone light. And I think that's the biggest difference, right? Or even like attorneys. I think starting off as a young attorney is probably pretty difficult, but attorneys make pretty good money once you get to the midpoint of your career. Architects, that's not a guarantee, like at all, really. Not anywhere near to the salaries of a doctor or an attorney, which most of the general public think architects make that same amount. If you compare someone who's like, I don't know, 40 years old, 40, whatever age, right, of those three professions, they all think that architects make the same amount of money as those other two. It's not even close. It's probably like half, right? And so I think there's other professions who have the same amount of off balance at the beginning, but again, there's that light at the end of the tunnel.
Wow, what a depressing conversation.
Well, give us solutions, Marina.
Create architecture.
Create architecture?
Quit.
That's a good one.
Quit.
Well, no.
Yeah, that's really depressing. I don't know. Great. Yeah, that's one way to just bring the spirit down here.
But if I think as a profession, though, if we're going to talk about these things and think about them, you have to. This is the reality of the situation. No.
Yeah, it is. It is. What I could say is that you have to fight for the things that you think are right for yourself. You have to switch offices if you know it's not working for you. And, I've done that before for offices that were not the right fit. Like, just don't stick around and bite the bullet and hope that it's going to, turn for the best at some point, because they probably won't. So you
won't, or it will?
What?
It won't?
It probably won't. If something is wrong and it keeps being wrong, it probably is going to still be wrong. So I don't think you should stick around and hope that, someone is going to solve the issue. Like, I think you have to be active in your career, in your personal choices. And if something is not working, and you bring it up to, I don't know, the principals of the office, well, then you just stop working there and go somewhere else.
Yeah, or I guess if there's an option, you join a union or be part of that effort.
Or you rally other employees and you bring up the issues to the superiors of, this is what's going on, people are not happy, you know.
Yeah, I think it's also partly a generational thing. I think the younger generations are more in tune with the financial realities of today. And that was not the case, you know, like you said, 30, whatever number of years ago. I mean, hopping around offices was pretty common. That was like the only, not a cheat code, but the only way to quickly change things up and hopefully resolve things is just to move offices. I mean, you plenty of people who did that too. But I suppose that's a way to look after oneself, but it doesn't really address the broader issues.
And now a quick break to thank the sponsors who support the second studio. Revit users, you have access to a powerful new capability you might not know about. Available with Revit version 2023.1 onward, Autodesk Insight is a next-generation carbon analysis tool that can help you make the leap toward low-carbon design. With only a few clicks, Insight lets you analyze, understand, and track the embodied and operational carbon impact of your design choices. You can then visualize opportunities for energy efficiency and carbon mitigation with its flexible dashboards, helping you make more sustainable and informed decisions. Check out the Insight link in our show notes to learn more. This episode of The Second Studio is brought to you by BQE Core, the all-in-one firm management software built for architects. Designed by architects for architects, Core helps you track time effortlessly, manage projects seamlessly, and get paid faster, so you can focus on design, not spreadsheets. With powerful automation and real-time insights, it's everything you need to run a smarter and more profitable firm. See how BQE Core can transform your practice by clicking the link in our show notes.
I think part of this might also align with the whole like starchitect mentality that was very strong during, I don't know, whatever a decade when we were in school, which there's not really a whole lot of like quote starchitects anymore. And I think part of that, the universe, that era of starchitects, you know, easily created this opportunity for the certain type of workplace culture. And then therefore, you know, pay, and therefore long hours, and therefore, and there's all kind of like wrapped up into one thing. But I think without starchitects, I think without hopefully people idolizing individuals so much to an unhealthy degree, I think then a lot of the negative aspects of those offices that many people were before willing to turn a blind eye to or from are now more visible, right? Because it's like, well, if that person at the top is no longer idolized and their work is no longer idolized as much, then why would anyone put up with all these other things that come with that office, the negative qualities? And I don't know, I suppose ego comes back into play, but it's weird. Like when I was in school, it was very, very competitive. And there were definitely, like, students were competitive, the environment was competitive, teachers were competitive, I would say. A lot of them were. And there was, at times, you know, a very negative outcome as a result of that. As a result of that. Not to say that competition has to produce negative environments, but in a lot of cases it did. And it always kind of confused me, because what I would have liked to have said to those students and those teachers is like, can't you just be normal and just chill? I'm not saying be less dedicated, but just be not such a dick about stuff. Like, you don't have to be so rude, so egotistical, so maniacal, so all these things to get your point across or to have people be dedicated. It's just not necessary. And I feel like it's another layer to all this too. I think if that starts to, so we're talking about like the problem or problems of the profession. I think the more that we collectively chip away at all of these different problems, it all like kind of feeds into each other to create a better environment, you know, in totality. And I do think the kind of toxic workplace, the ego, that kind of stuff is another part of the piece of the pie. If you start working away at that and just solving that, which is an easy thing because it has nothing to do with finances or benefits and the mechanics of capitalism. It just has to do with how you are as a person. Like, just do that first, right? I think it's going to have a ripple effect or a bleeding effect and impact a bunch of other aspects of the profession. So maybe actually that's an easy thing to tackle. I feel like, well, if you're inherently an asshole though, then it probably wouldn't be an easy thing to tackle.
Yeah.
I mean, when you were in school, it was competitive, but did you guys have like negative environments? Like that's like where it wasn't productive because people were too, I don't know, nasty toward each other.
Yeah, I mean, it was competitive. I mean, I would say school in general in France is, I don't even know if it's competitive or judgmental is another word. You know, like you're being judged by people all the time, no matter what you do.
It's also kind of a French thing, though.
It's a French thing. I mean, it might not just be a French thing, but yeah, it's pretty, you know, it's pretty typical. So you get used to that from, I don't know, you're in middle school up until you're in college. Like, it's every class is going to be that. You know, if you make a mistake, like, people are going to judge you on that mistake. Like, it's like, oh, okay, well, you tried. Like, it's stay positive. It's like, oh, you fucking loser. Like, you made a mistake.
Wait, what?
Type of thing.
Who? The teachers would be like this?
No, not the teachers, the other students. Teachers in architecture school were, I mean, there are some good teachers that were a bit more pedagogical in the way they would give the feedback, so a bit more mindful as to how they deliver what they think of your project, and there is the ones that are very blunt about it.
Right.
And, you know, like, depending on the type of personality and all of that, like, you receive it one way or the other. So, you know, there is often, like, juries of reviewers, you know, that would come and, like, judge your project from outside of from all the schools and stuff. Like, they don't care.
Don't care in terms of...
They don't care on how they deliver things to you because they're just going to see you today. They won't see you tomorrow. They don't know you. So they're just going to say whatever they think about it.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of it. And to be honest, not to justify that kind of attitude, but when you work with clients, some clients are very good in delivering their feedbacks onto the work you're showing, and some others aren't. You know, some others deliver that as if they're 3 years old and they're like, I don't like it. And it's like, well, you know, in a way, like, all of that school training is preparing you to have to deal with those things because, unfortunately, some people will act like that.
No, I think it's totally true. I think the best version of training is when you're exposed just to a wide variety of people and situations, and you have to just deal with it, you know. About 6 years ago, 8 years ago, no, 7 years, I don't know, whatever years ago, 8 years ago, I think, there was a lot of discussion about whether or not reviews within schools, formal presentations and formal feedback and juries should be removed because they're too toxic. And we talked about it extensively at that time and our positions on that. And there was a post about that and that we had made, which was just repeating what someone else had said, which was saying that the review should be gone because they're an antiquated model. And one of the partners of one of the biggest offices in New York City, who's the most well-known offices, like one of the top 5 offices in New York City, DM'd us saying, this is a dumb idea to remove this format. And they said this is the closest thing students will get to experience of what it's like to present to a client. And in their case, so like we do houses, so that's, you know, our clients. But in their case, their clients are developers for massive projects, massive, like huge projects, huge projects, and very, very tall projects. And that always stuck with me because I agree with it. And part of school is training for, quote, the real world, a phrase I've always hated. But it is true. And I think if you don't get exposed to some of these challenges, you're not going to have the ability. You know, it's sort of like raising a kid, right? If the kid is always getting what they want, as soon as they're approached with anything that's adversarial, they're not going to have the brain to cope with that. They don't know what to do. And I think a lot of it is very similar, right? We're training. That's what school is training for the next arena. And the next arena is fucking crazy. You meet all kinds of nutso people, you know, clients and also non-clients, like consultants, contractors, all these people out there you have to work with. And that's really what we have to be prepared for and navigate successfully. And we would I think it would be a disservice to ourselves if we removed some of that. If we were ignorant to that reality and removed the friction within our internal places like school or even within offices of being, let's say, direct or being difficult, but removing all that friction is not a good idea, because you just will end up breeding a species of a generation of architects who don't know how to cope, and you gotta know how to do it. Otherwise, you will quit. You'll quit. And we definitely don't need any architects quitting. We need the opposite of that, right? But I also think that a lot of this conversation exists on a spectrum of rightness and wrongness. But I think most people who are intelligent and not complete assholes, you know where that line is. Like I said before, right? $500 a month and a subway card, that's not okay. You can't do that if you're bringing on like 10 people and you're paying them that way. That's not okay. You clearly crossed the line. That's blatant. Or, if you are, again, a Starchitect office and you employ dozens of people like that to work in your blue foam model shop, no, that's not okay, dude. What are you doing? So there is that line, and I think it's, in some ways, just it's like common sense. I don't know. It's common sense of where it is.
Yeah.
What else has been happening in other news?
Well, I don't necessarily think we want to talk about, the president or the war. So if we ignore those two major things, I don't know what's happening in the news.
No, I mean the news in our lives, not necessarily like big picture news.
Well, we've been sick for the last however many weeks now, so that's that. We've been sleep deprived, not because of work.
Well, so I could handle one of those, two of the three or whatever, but not all three. I don't know. Being sick is the worst. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do to make it go faster either. And I feel like all of the home remedies of like taking ginger shots and like cayenne and turmeric and I don't know, all that stuff, I feel like it maybe moves the needle by like 1%, but I feel like just drugs is better. Just Tylenol and Advil. Although right now I'm sick and I do feel like an In-N-Out burger would help me feel a lot better. So maybe we'll do that after this. I think actually that would probably be the thing. What about, didn't we watch something recently that we finished?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the last season started okay. After the last 3 episodes, I was like, nah, I don't know if I can.
It got better at the end, though, wouldn't you say?
And then they got really good, so yeah. I would say just be patient,
Yeah, some twists and some turns.
But there's a bunch of stuff that's coming out. Peaky Blinders, the movie came out. There's another thing coming out soon.
I know. The Peaky Blinders movie has been out for like a week or so. We haven't watched it still.
So I read that Arthur,
is that in it?
He's not in it, I guess, because he's been having like drug issues.
That's what the news says, at least. Yeah. And for it to believe the news, and that's quite sad and depressing. It's weird, actually, how like alcoholism and drug abuse is so prevalent in Hollywood. Like, how many
it
Hollywood?
Kind of makes sense. Like, I mean, this is such a nasty world. Also, I mean, talk about architecture, talk about the movie industry. That is probably like 10 times worse than we have it, right? Yeah. So, yeah, of course, like you kind of have to ease your pain if you're so passionate about the profession. You know what I mean? Like,
so we started watching Wonder Man, and we only watched not even the first episode because we're getting too sick, I think. Don't know. Did we finish the first episode?
We watched the first one, yeah.
Yes. Okay, good. Stamina. I think it was only like 25
minutes.
Watched,
I think it was the last episode of Night Agent, like 5 sitting or something. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, things are getting kind of crazy. But we watched the first episode of Wonder Man, and yeah, so, there's not really a whole lot of spoilers to give away with one episode, but, there's a guy who's a working actor in Hollywood trying to make it, and he goes, one of the scenes in the first episode is he goes to this audition to play Wonder Man. So I don't know what the show's about. It sounds quite meta, right? But anyway, he goes to audition to play Wonder Man, and he's in this hallway with 25 other actors who are also nervous and reading their scripts in preparation for their own take to do the audition for Wonder Man. And I had to pause it, and I was like, this is super stressful to watch. Super stressful to watch. I cannot imagine that being your life as a working or struggling actor, just going to audition after audition, and your chances of getting a part have got to be, at least according to that scene, no better than 1 in 25 every time. Like, how many auditions do you lose, and you lose the part before you, like, just give up?
Well, and how many roles are available, and how many people apply to these roles? Like, your chances of getting it are probably so small.
I mean, how many real estate agents do I know who came to LA for Hollywood, first and foremost, and they were in that industry for a few years, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 years, and then they pivoted to real estate now, so they do that full time.
Well, they probably make a lot more money too.
A lot easier depending on how you do it. A lot more stable depending on how you do it, I think. Predictable, I think, is more likely in real estate. But like a brutal... I was trying to think, like, the only time I've experienced that kind of hallway space, where you're lined up with a bunch of other people, was probably when I was, doing music. Not in a competition, but I said the other night, I can't recall the word for it, but it's like people who do music performances would know, like when you go to perform your solo piece in front of a judge or a panel of judges, and they give you a ranking. Like, I forget the rankings were for the Southern California Band Association, SCUSBA, whatever it was. It was like the low one was not called like shitty. It was called something like nice, like average or like decent something. And then there's good, and then something else, and then superior. But you go and you perform, and that's like what you work toward. And that's probably the closest thing. Oh no, actually no, auditioning. What am I saying? Auditioning to be part of like whatever ensemble you have to be auditioned to be part of, like the. Not the school ensemble, but like some other ensemble. You have to audition for that. That's also pretty nerve-wracking to be sitting in some kind of dreary, school hallway with like the fluorescent lights above. You're sitting in a chair. You got your instrument. It's getting cold, which is not great for if you're a brass instrument. And you're trying to... I remember, actually, a quick anecdote. When I was in high school, there was this... I played the trumpet. There's this trumpet player who... was a few years ahead of me, so he graduated, but he left a huge mark on the school, on the band, on the school, because he was that good. Like, everyone knew his name, many years after he left the school. And so he was just, like, idol, right? And he was a pretty good player. Somehow, I think I was in high school, or maybe afterwards, I came across him, and I was in one of those hallways, and I was doing my thing, and he was also there for some reason. And he was in the queue, waiting to be called on, to his name to be called. And he was a nervous wreck. He had his sheet of music. Actually, no, it was memorized, so it wasn't a sheet of music. It was. It was the back of a sheet of music, okay? He had his trumpet in one hand, a number 2 pencil in the other. He was holding it like this, like a kid with like a fist, and he was blacking out the piece of paper. Like a mental person, like just about a quarter of the page was completely scratched and covered in graphite, and he was making his way through. I'm like, bro, I didn't even talk to him. I'm like, I don't know what is going on with you, but you are, and I probably did very well actually because he was a really good player. But I always remember that. It kind of freaked me out. I'm like, but you're supposed to be like the stud. Like, what are you doing? You're the soloist. You're the one who can hit all these high notes. You're the one who went on and did all this stuff. Like, why are you nervous? And it was, that was both very disturbing and also kind of reassuring at the same time.
Wow, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was weird.
That's, yeah. I mean, I guess anyone who's really good at something, there's probably underlying issues somewhere,
I think so.
But that sounds pretty scary. Yeah, I didn't do any auditions or anything like that. The only audition I did was when we took our kid to a casting audition. And I had a part of like 2 seconds, and he did great, and I did not.
Oh.
And I was like, damn it, I think we lost it because of me.
I didn't know. I thought it was... I mean, first of all, we're not taking this seriously. It's just for fun. But, like, what... I didn't know it was for the both of you. Are you sure it was for the both of you, not just him? I mean, why would they have you do anything if it was just for him?
No, they had me do stuff, but I didn't know as part of the audition I would have to do stuff.
What was it? What'd you have to do? Pretend to be a cheetah?
I had the audition was for some sort of like prevention videos of, you know, like babies getting hurt. So, you know, you leave your kid in the car, they're eating and you're not watching them, and, you know, stuff like that. Right?
So like, okay, I need you to leave your kid in the car and lock the car and walk away for half an hour and come back.
So basically I was casting to be one of those moms who doesn't watch their kid, you know, when they're eating. So I was pretending to prepare food. I'm like, oh, hi. They're like, okay, so this is what you're going to do. Here is a table. Here is a spatula. You're going to pretend you're preparing food, and you glance at your kid, and my kid is actually an empty stool. I'm like, okay, why don't you just put my kid on the stool so I'm actually glancing at my kid. And then you're going to move over to the other side, pretend you're serving dinner, and still glance at your kid, you know, once in a while, and whatever. And I'm like...
So what kind of props did they give you? Did you have a range? Did you have like...
No, it was just like 2 high-top tables and a spatula. Okay. I don't even know if I had a spatula, actually. I think I might just have... And not even a pan. Like, I was just...
I don't think pretending. I would assume they did not give you a
I'm
spatula.
Like, please just bring me a pot and a spatula, like an actual plate.
You should have brought your own prepared.
Like, put some beans in there so I actually serve them or something.
You should have brought your own cooktop, like a what do you call it? What is it, a hot plate? You should have brought a hot plate in a can.
And I could have worn an apron. I mean, I could have be in the role, but
open up a Costco chicken. Let me put this down. Pretend like I'm.
And my kid's part was to sit in a chair and grab Cheetos and drop them on the floor, which he had no problem doing.
Yeah, of course.
Right, and anyway, so that was my closest exposure to an audition. And I remember getting there, and you know, the other thing with those types of things is I feel like there's never signage. You never know where you're supposed to enter, where you're supposed to go, what you're supposed to do when you get there. So you get there with your kid, and there is like 5 other mom and their kid, and everybody's smiling at each other, and you're like, yeah, but we're all here for the same stuff, right? So if I had a knife, I would actually like kill every single one of you.
Oh my God.
That's how it feels like. And then there is paper with names. You don't know if you're supposed to take one, write your name down. Like, nobody's there to tell you what to do. And so, you know, so you're waiting. And then, you know, they call you one by one. And then the casting itself takes like 5 minutes, not even. And then you're out the door and you're like, okay, now I guess just wait for the call. Like, you don't know. So
you don't think you performed well? Can you do a reenactment? Like what? So they said.
No, I mean, I knew after I did it, I was like, yeah, I don't think that was great. Also, there was moms there with their kids, and they looked like they were actresses or model, and I'm like, I just look like a normal mom. I don't look like a model mom or whatever. Like, this is. I'm an architect.
So
like, this is not what I do. I don't fake prepare food. I prepare food, or I don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're definitely not like fake prepared food. Stupid. So did they say, were you like preparing eggs? Like what was it?
No, but they don't give you that much thing. But it's very brief too. Like, you come in the room, it's like, hey, hi, okay, what's your name? What's his age? Whatever. Okay, so he's gonna sit there. He's gonna do that. Now after that, it's your turn. You're gonna do this, and that. And I'm like, okay, well, you could have sent me a memo before coming. I would have trained myself, like practice or whatever. Like, this is a little bit improvisation here. Like, I'm not an improv artist. Like, what is this?
Well, so you have a fake spatula.
I don't even remember if I had a spatula.
Oh no, I mean you have an imaginary one. Okay. And so what were you preparing in your mind?
I don't know, I'm just stirring stuff.
Oh my God.
There's no time to think about what's on the menu tonight. Like, no.
Well, like Wonder Man, you have to subtext.
Yeah, but I'm not trying to become an actress.
I could see.
So, it's not.
I could see you just kind of like doing this with your hand, like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, it's just not my thing.
They're like, she seems to be making some kind of
it's a French
porridge.
Recipe. It's a French recipe, you know. But that was probably my closest experience to an audition. I mean, I've done, like I was saying yesterday, I've done like competition entry for architecture school after high school, you know, to get into architecture school. In France, you apply, and some of those, it's like a sit-down exam of 3 hours to get in, like a design entry competition. Some others, you show up with a portfolio and you have an interview. Some others, it's a combination of all of that. So you have a portion of you have a written test, you have an interview, you have another thing you have to do. And those were exhausting, and you're traveling to a bunch of different cities across the country to apply, and barely got sleep. You're in a school you don't know, and it's just like.
Wait, how many of those did you do?
I did 10.
What?
Yeah, I applied to 10 schools.
Wait, so for all 10 you had to go to a place?
Some of them, I think a couple of them was just like an online application or whatever. But I went to at least 6 or 7.
Really?
Yeah, all over France.
And so these are 10, let's say let's focus on the 6. So 6 different architecture schools.
Yeah.
You have to go to different parts of France is small compared to the United States, but still you have to go to different parts of the country. Yeah. And you go You go
spend a night in a hotel. My dad would drive me to spend a night in a hotel. Then next morning you have like interview or exam or this or that. Yeah.
What are they asking you during the interview? Pretend to cook stuff with a spatula.
I only remember a handful of those, but one of them was on the east side of France, kind of like closer to Germany. Very, very good school. And it was an interview, so it was like, you present. I had my 24x36 portfolio from art school that I had put together of like drawings and whatever. And, they just ask like where you're from, why you want to do this, and then you explain your portfolio, the concept behind your portfolio. Because it wasn't like an architecture portfolio, let's say, where you have like projects and each project has its story.
Well, yeah, you haven't gone to school yet.
I came out of high school. I did 1 year in art school, and I did like a whole... it was kind of more of a visual concept of a house. So like one of the first page was a teeny tiny vignette of a more classical house. And as you were flipping through the pages, you were like kind of like zooming in different portion of the home and done in different mediums. So there was some paintings, there was some like ink work, all kinds of stuff.
That sounds pretty interesting, actually.
And I made a cover that I had like wrapped into like a, I don't know, kind of a Renaissance fabric or whatever. I mean, it was like a whole shebang, just to have something to show because, again, like, I had nothing. And, I was like 18 years old, 17 years old.
Yeah.
Like that, like you're a kid. Like, it was kind of weird. And you also have no idea what architecture school is about. So you're trying to convince these people to let you in for something you actually have no idea what it is you're applying for.
Yeah, that's
just kind of backwards.
That's an interesting...
It's like hire me for the job, but I don't really know what the job is about.
Yeah, that's an interesting... That's fascinating. I mean, I bet on the school's side, the interviewer's side of it, it's probably fascinating to see hundreds of students come through and show all kinds of different stuff, and most of them don't know what the fuck is going on. Yeah, and I remember,
I think it was the last one before lunch.
Yeah, it's not a good spot.
That was the worst spot. They were tired and whatever, and I had been waiting because they were running late. So you're waiting in the hallway for like an hour. You're like, your heart's racing because you're waiting for your name to be called. You're trying to like keep your thoughts together, like what to say and this and that. That's not fun.
The waiting is the worst part because when you wait for too long. So my only 2 experiences of this hallway that we're talking about, right, is for music and then for martial arts. And in both cases, when you're waiting around for too long, it's not great because you get cold. Yeah. You get stiff. And then
you go to pee, you're getting hungry.
And then you get hungry. And you're like, should I eat? And the thing that I think one of the reasons why I have like a little bit of like very specific dislike for power bars or for Cliff bars or Nutri-Grain bars, that was big when I was a kid, Nutri-Grain bars, which are basically sugar, is that those are always associated with being, first of all, being crumbled to shit in my pocket, warm from my pocket, then also eating them, they're associated with stress.
Yeah.
Eating them right before, but not knowing if you should or not. And do I eat, maybe I eat half? Maybe half is okay. If I eat it now, I don't have water, I'm going to blow a bunch of shit into my instrument. If I drink water, I'm going to need to pee. If I don't eat it, though, I'm going to be fainting on stage because I'm so nervous. My legs are locked or whatever it is. I haven't experienced stress like that in a long time, and I don't. It's
I think the latest was probably like the architecture exams was.
That's stressful, but
stress.
I think what's your point about not knowing what the other person's looking for or not knowing anything about the universe you're trying to get into, right? The school is interesting because, like, for the exams, there's no gate, right? It's you pass or you fail. It's pretty robotic and mechanical, which is also why it's difficult. But there's no gate. There's nothing on the other side of it. And then even I was thinking about it, like, I think when you're in the arena of the real world, And now we're talking about architects to clients, contractors to clients. The client or the investor is the other person you're trying to win over. At some point, it becomes like just about alignment. And so, like, if you do the dance, you have the interview, you went, the hallway doesn't exist, but you drove to the meeting or whatever. It's not the right fit for X, Y, and Z reasons. It's like, fuck it, not the right fit, on to the next, right? There's not as much, because it's not one school you're trying to get into.
Yeah.
It's not one authority. It's just, you're one client of hundreds or thousands that are out there. I'll move on to the next one, or the investor, or whoever it is. And I think, because I was thinking, like, why haven't I experienced that level of nervousness? I think it's probably why. I don't think it has to do with expertise at all. I think it just has to do with, well, it wasn't the right fit. Next. You can't really go to a school when you're a high school student. You apply to, 6 or 10 is a lot of schools, but still it's not that many in the broader scope of, like, comparing to client metrics. You can't apply to 10 schools and be like, well, it wasn't a good fit, on to the next. It's kind of like, well, that sucks because that was one of the top 4. And then you're kind of fucked. Yeah. I don't miss being a student.
I don't miss that. Well, I mean,
for those reasons.
Even applying for jobs, I don't miss doing that.
It's similar.
It's similar. I mean, you don't really. Also, it kind of like depends, like how lucky you get with who's doing your interview.
It's just timing.
Like, it could be a great firm, a great whatever. You might have been hired if someone else had interviewed you from that office. I mean, if you think about, like, all the variables that need to play in your favor for you to get it.
Yeah. And I would say, so we've done years ago a lot of conversations about this. I would say now, being on the other side of the table, the thing for employee or young architects trying to get jobs is not working out. The thing I would tell them to put their mind at ease is, like, to your point, there's so many things completely outside of your control.
Yeah, you just have to be your best.
Like, nothing to do with that person.
There's a lot of things you can control.
And number one is timing. It's just like, it's weird when I think about it, of how many great talented people there are out there, but we're just not looking at that time, or like we're looking when they're not available. Like, it's just timing.
No.
And it just, there's nothing, not a whole lot to get around that one. But yeah, that's fascinating to be interviewed to get into a school. I
mean, I did get in 6 out of the 10, so that's not...
Did you really?
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
I think I got into all the schools except for... I didn't get into UCLA, or I didn't get into Berkeley. I don't remember which one it was. And at the time, it was pretty well known that those two schools would talk to each other. And so if you got accepted into one, your chances of getting accepted to another were very low. Of course, there were plenty of kids who got into both. I wasn't one of those kids. Not that it mattered. I mean, those weren't good schools for architecture anyway at the time. So, fuck it. Rather go to a state school. It was like, we're ranked probably third in the nation at the time. And it was a 5-year program. It was a lot cheaper. Why would I not go there? Why would I not go there?
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, it's funny because if you sometimes think of life and, like, if you had taken a different route, like, what things would have been.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's crazy. Like, the smallest thing, the smallest move you make, the smallest decision you make, like, just takes you one way or the other. And it's fascinating.
It's also fascinating how a lot of times the risks you take pay off. Like, we were talking about it recently, moving from here to there or wherever. A lot of times, the moves, obviously they coincide with a kind of inflection point of many other things happening. And when you make that move, you don't know, you're stepping into a new universe, and a lot of it's just unknown. And you can do your best to predict it, but, it's like reading the stock market. Like, you can't really,
you can't
but then you do it, and then things work out, and it's kind of, it's odd how it happens. Anyway, so, I think your problem was you didn't really think about what you were making. Like, it's got to be eggs, or you're flipping something. I get the sensation you're just kind of whipping
we got
stuff.
Another audition invitation to apply for, I think it was like a Delta... LAX Delta whatever as a family, and I'm like, fuck that, I'm not applying. I'm like, you take my kid only and not me. Like, I'm not playing like fake mom traveling or whatever that is. No, thank you.
I think actually you would be pretty good at being on I don't know, actually. Maybe not. I think you'd be good at very specific roles where you're like, how do I say this I mean this in a good way. You know Lena Dunham, the creator of Girls?
Of course.
So I get the feeling that she's a really good actress for specific roles where she's playing someone who's like just adjacent to who she is naturally.
Yeah. There's a lot of actors and actresses who are very good, and you can tell because they play kind of like the same role over and over. And I'm like, that's probably who they are.
Yeah, I think. Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, you see them in an interview, you're like, oh,
you're just like
you're the actor. You're the character.
Yeah.
I think you'd be very good at that.
No, I'm not really good at pretending.
Yeah, but I think not everyone could be good at that because the character is basically themselves.
Yeah.
Because I think you do have to have a certain amount of, like, your eyes have to be able to like look around.
Right.
I mean?
Right.
The camera has to see where your eyes go.
Well, if you have big eyes, that's not an issue.
I think you'd be good at it.
Well, thank you. Well, maybe I consider a change of career if architecture doesn't work out for me.
Do they have any ones where like there's a dad involved? Because you're looking at the silver medallion winner of 8th grade drama.
Oh, okay.
You did not know that, did you?
I did not know that, no. Well, I might have to investigate.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap it up then. And then the next time we'll talk about my acting career.
Acting career. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for listening to this episode. If you like what we do, please support the show. Rate it everywhere you can. We're on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube,
iTunes
Instagram.
has not been around forever.
It doesn't matter.
It's still
YouTube,
iTunes doesn't exist.
The website.
It doesn't exist. If an entire generation would be like, iTunes, what the fuck is this person?
What do you mean it doesn't exist?
It doesn't exist.
What, it used to exist?
It used to exist, but we're not promoting things that used to exist. We don't exist on things that used to exist.
Okay, all of our episodes are on the website, secondstudiopod.com. And if you have any questions, any topics, anything you want to share with us,
then you can find us on this thing called the internet. www.internet is where you can find us.
.com.
Yeah. All right, that sounds good.
Okay.
Later.
Bye.